Wow, 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 bow. Dun, 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 bow, bow, bow. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Episode 8, if you're watching this on YouTube. We're going to be playing Dale campaign. I got my buddy JJstarter here playing a
Hey,
campaign that
everybody.
you're not going to ever see on my channel ever.
Yeah.
But we hear about it all the time, so you don't have to always listen to me looking at the boring map doing nothing.
Yeah, and if you ever want to, you can come and watch me live on Twitch. Me and Elwirfy will be streaming. Well, I consistently stream Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and the future that will include.
Oh, wait. Crap. I just remembered. Turn off Discord right now and call me through Steam before you cut out forever.
Okay, yeah, good point.
Because you started cutting out and I just remembered we need to call through Streets.
No, good plan.
Yeah. So when you go
I
ahead
will
and
be
hang up,
right back.
Yeah, hang up. Call me on Steam. Yeah. Okay, guys. So I don't know if he's left yet, but we're just gonna be waiting a bit. We're loading into the game anyway, so hopefully it'll go well. As soon as hopefully, no, I can't do it quite yet because I'm loading. Don't want to ruin anything because it's a mod. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and start talking. So hopefully it works now. Now that I've gotten into the game.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, you're just not cutting out anymore. This whole time. Like I've heard you before.
Yeah.
And let's.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't get the delay, but honestly, even with the delay that happened last time, it was a little bit easier to fix by just closing it and opening it back up.
Exactly. If you hear a delay, or just let me know and we can fix it. Anyway, so from where we were last time, also I noticed in the Steam I can hear your children easier. So that's
really?
Yeah, I hear them way
fun.
easier. Yeah.
Maybe because I have it picks up background noise.
Can you hear my dog when she walks around easier? I mean,
sometimes not. That is one of the things about Discord is Discord allows me a little bit more tinkering with background noise than Steam does, but it's fine. You all can hear my kids.
Yep.
By the way, just so anyone watching isn't concerned, my wife is also here. It's not like I'm just ignoring my children. If you hear them crying or something, my wife is dealing with it. It's not like I'm just sitting here being like, well, that sucks, I'm streaming.
Yeah, that'd be
because I had that thought last time that most people probably don't know, but yeah, my wife is also here, and she is taking care of the kids while I'm streaming.
Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and end the turn. We're moving our way towards Dal Guldur, and hopefully we won't die with our one army, but we're building a second army right now, because I expect that first army to get slaughtered. And the second army's now retrained and more equipped, so...
Fair. I'm trying to remember what I was doing.
Oh, okay.
Because, it's been a bit.
Yeah, well, the Kingdom of is being selfish and stealing all the rebel territory, so...
Yeah, fucking Airborne can get aggressive, kind of mid to late game, which is weird because you kind of don't expect it from them, given that they go for so long with kind of just being passive, and then suddenly they're like, nope, I want everything.
Yay, Rivendell's under siege again! Hooray!
Jesus Christ! News for 4.0.
Yeah?
They have merged the Grey Havens and Imladris, Rivendell, into one faction. They're now all the High Elves. They did this kind of because it makes it you have kind of more of a focused goal. Whereas Rivendell before, you were just kind of survive, and if you can beat the bad guys. But, oh, hey, Dale just came to me for trade rights. That's hilarious.
Nice. I'm actually talking to Dal Guldur. I thought about it and I realized, is there a way I could ask them to give me every single region they own and then pay them an ungodly amount of money and then they just are wiped from the game?
You can never convince a faction to pay you or sell you their capital.
Oh.
And you have to remember that religion or culture in this mod is a thing, and most of those cities will probably be very Mordor focused or Melchior focused in their culture, meaning that you wouldn't be able to keep them, so they would probably immediately turn to bandits within like a turn or two. And that the Wood Elves are not very expansive. So you can't really rely on like the Wood Elves to go in and like pick up all those territories really quickly. The second they turn Remnant, it's actually more likely that you would end up paying Dal Guldur a fucking ungodly amount of money and being like, here you go, here's like 10 billion, coins, I want all your territories, and they go, cool, thanks, and then they would wait until you lost all of them to rioting, and then just move right back in and take it.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Yeah. Also, fun fact, if you bribe, or if you buy a city from a faction, it doesn't actually remove the army that's in the city. What it does is that army just stands outside the city. And if you, depending on the location you're buying and kind of how it's set up, you might get a few units starting in that city when you buy it from them. But more often than not, it'll just be a completely empty and undefended city that is also rioting because you don't have the right culture. So yeah, I mean, you could, but I think it would actually backfire and make Dal Guldur much harder.
So if Dal Guldur only has 8 units, sorry about interrupting, but they only have 8 units in Dal Guldur, I'm going to attack with a full stack army. You think I can hold it afterwards, or will the retaliatory forces be too much?
I mean, once you take it, well here, I'm watching your stream.
Yeah, and I know you're delayed. Because I'm looking at the city. I can't see, obviously, but there's 8 units.
It doesn't look like there are nearby armies. Like there's the one army at the little village kind of close, but that'll still take about 2 turns. The most terrifying thing is the fact that there can be armies in the trees.
Well, I'm walking
there could actually be... Well, no. When they're in ambush stance, you can't see them on the map.
Well, fuck.
So there could be upwards of like 20 armies in there that you would have no idea are in there until you went in there and suddenly started getting attacked a bunch. However, if you're trying to remove Dal Guldur as a enemy or a threat,
pretty much, I want to wipe it out.
Taking the capital is the best way because that is where Dal Guldur gets a lot of its specialty units from. Yeah. Such as their witch knights, the Dal Guldur Guard, or what are they called? They're like, I think they're specifically called like Dal Guldur Orcs or whatever, and they're just stronger units. Like they're orcs that are actually pretty decent in melee.
Stopping here. Yes, my lord.
So yeah, honestly, like even if you can't hold it for a very long time, even if you can hold it for 5-10 turns, you're crippling the larger function of what is Dal Guldur. Not to mention that Dal Guldur itself is probably their highest income city. So that will probably hit them that way.
I'm actually getting a call from a doctor, I think, so let me...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll just talk to stream and video. So, for people watching Elwirfy's video, yeah, one of the best things he could do is, if he hits Dal Guldur itself, it would actually provide him kind of a good advantage where he would be able to remove kind of their best units from being able to be recruited until he loses it again. Because a lot of the territory in the Woodland Realm that they take, they're going to have to wait 4 or 5 turns to build, build barracks and stuff like that to even start building units out of those locations. For instance, like Ostengel, Levar, Brownboat, and even Aknod Ayen. All those locations, which are decently close by, they have to, it takes turns, just like it does for us, the human player, for those to build barracks and stuff and orc pits to begin training armies, to go and fight. So if he can take out Dal Guldur, which is, like, I'm almost 100% positive, is the location where the majority of their army is being produced from, it will completely remove that issue. Because then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter how much the Dal Guldur is spread or what they can do, as long as if he takes Dal Guldur and removes their main recruitment pool, then they're probably going to turn around and focus trying to get Dal Guldur back. But even then, it allows the Vale of Anduin to attack. It allows, again, the Wood Elves aren't that aggressive, but they may try and take advantage of the situation and hit them. But it also allows the Elves of Lothlorien to possibly get involved. And, if the Dal Guldur orcs in his have already picked the fight with Lothlorien, there is a chance that he can take advantage of that by taking Dal Guldur. It can, essentially all the little factions will start picking at what's left of these armies, and it can give him a good chance of actually holding and really crippling Dal Guldur for a long time to come. My suggestion is to take Dal Guldur and just go for it. Now, granted, he could try to bribe Dal Guldur, like wholly, just bribe it entirely and be like, okay, I want all your territories, here's a bunch of money, and then attack Dal Guldur itself. But if Dal Guldur itself is the final city, it would actually be a very bad plan, because what it would end up doing is it would spawn their last stand garrison script, and it would actually make it harder for him to take it in the long run. I would say best plan is probably to charge around, hit Dal Guldur with his army. Obviously hit his... Sorry, I'm also moving my guys because I am playing my own campaign. But it is also to... his best plan is probably to go in, hit Dal Guldur, and just try and hold it for as long as he can, and then try and have a secondary army kind of doing the damage for him. Spending most of that time either, having an army come down from Lake Town, or an army come around from one of his farther outposts, and have them really start putting pressure on the deeper parts of Dal Guldur, instead of relying solely on, attacking Dal Guldur, holding it, and then just letting the enemy hit him until they all die out. Because if he does that, there will be enough time for the locations to start building their barracks and orc pits and whatever, and start, essentially will remove the entire purpose of defeating Dal Guldur. It will just make all of those locations in which they can start spawning enemies, which is, the main reason you want to take out Dal Guldur, is to make it a location where spawning enemies, because it's the main location of spawning enemies, but yeah. So that would be my advice. I'm really desperately trying to hold this as best as I can while Elwirfy is away. I don't really do YouTube anymore for this reason. filling dead air is difficult for me. But that's pretty much my thoughts on it. Now, as his campaign as a whole, there is a lot of things that he has to kind of worry about. Obviously, for a while, he's pretty safe with Erebor and some of the more aggressive good guy factions like the Woodland Realm being on his side and guarding him. He doesn't really have to worry too much. But then again, if he gets a little too lax, things can go poorly. And that is to say, like if he starts fighting a lot, like when he picks a fight with Dalgador, something to keep in mind is that Dalgador it doesn't stand alone. Mordor is decently close, and they are allies at the beginning of the game. They probably will remain allies for a very long time, which means if Riley starts a fight with Dalgador, any territory he takes, Mordor will most likely see it as, open season, and start bullying their way up into his territory and kind of allowing Mordor an opening into the north. It's a very dangerous precedent to make, given that obviously Mordor is just itching to, get in and fight. That's what Mordor wants more than anything, is they want to be in that fight. They want to be in the north where people can't really stop them. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things where he has to be careful, because just because he removes Dalgador doesn't mean that the threat is removed. It simply means that a threat is removed. You know what I mean? So that could be one of the potential long-term issues. Potentially by taking Dalgador, he has a chance of invoking Mordor's wrath. And obviously, I think anyone who's played Third Age, or just in general, who kind of has an idea of how Lord of the Rings works, knows that, picking a fight with Mordor isn't exactly the best plan. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. In all reality, Mordor might also be completely focused on fighting Gondor, and not give a shit. It might be like, no, I don't really care if, he wipes out Dalgador. I just want to take out Mordor, Gondor first, and then go from there. And if that's the case, then, Riley probably won't have that much of an issue. He'll probably go in, he'll, curb stomp the fuck out of Dalgador, and then they'll slowly be picked apart by his enemies or his allies, and that'll pretty much be it. But it's just that chance. The Easterlings are also a thing that, like, I know a lot of people seem to forget about them. Like they everyone kind of has that, like, oh yeah, the Easterlings are here, but people seem to tend to forget about them in their play, where they're like, oh, right, the Easterlings. Well, it can't be that bad, right? Like, they can't be that dangerous. But it's like, no, I mean, they're a pretty decent human faction that is just waiting, Granted, most of the time they're fighting dwarves, and if you're not Dale or one of those factions, like, he doesn't start at war with them, but they're a serious contender. Actually, not being at war with anyone, technically he doesn't have to fight anyone. He could absolutely spend his entire game just being like, nope, I'm just gonna sit here and do nothing and let everyone else figure it out. But more realistically, he needs space. He needs to spread out. he has to expand. That's how the game works. If he ever wants to conquer everything, which is the goal of our campaigns, these are total conquest campaigns, which I realized Elwirfy did not say, but it's part 8, so you probably know. We have to conquer everything eventually, and the long-term danger is from places like the Easterlings and places like Mordor, who potentially
in the middle.
I'm sorry, I just got handed some mail. I need to. Go and. I need to go collect some stuff. Anyway, sorry about that. Space trying to deal with other stuff. But the long term is definitely what's going to be hard, and obviously that's what's always difficult about these campaigns, these total conquest campaigns. It's kind of the point, is that you are, inevitably, you are going to be fighting everyone, or at least mostly everyone, which is another thing to think about is, like right now, Elwirfy can go and he can fight, Dal Guldur, right? But if he doesn't, Dal Guldur will probably take out the Woodland Realm, probably take out the Anduinian Vale. But the question is more of what's a bigger threat in the long run? Is it taking out Dal Guldur, or is it taking out the Anduinian Vale? Because eventually he has to fight everyone. They're kind of like the Dwarves of Erebor. The Dwarves of Erebor fucking fall over dead because the Orcs of the Misty Mountain, or the Orcs of Gundabad wipe them out. Then he's kind of in a better place because he probably has a better chance against the Orcs of the Misty, or the Orcs of Gundabad than he does the Dwarves. That being said, it's all up to personal play style. There are certain factions, obviously, like Isengard, which are completely anti-Cav factions. So obviously, like Isengard's better focused towards fighting factions like Rohan. So if you're playing as Rohan, you should be having a hard time with them. But also, different players are better at different stuff. Sometimes a player is good enough to overcome that, faction-specific stuff and really make it the best they can, And so, Dal Guldur is what I like to call a cheeky faction, as in a lot of what Dal Guldur does is this kind of, they really rely heavily on that ability to break your army. 100%, they want to break your army with the archers, with the whole, we have archers that lower your morale. That is their main goal, is to get you into a slogfest with their guys, and then have their archers that break your morale come in and break your morale. I mean, I know that sounds like, well, duh, but, legitimately, that's it. That's pretty much the whole plan until they get to their later stage units. When they have their early stage units, fucking, they don't give a that's their whole plan, is break your morale. When they get late stage unit, fear them entirely, because their late stage units, I think they get fucking Dark Templars or the Dark Humans, whatever the fuck they're called, that Mordor gets. Those fuckers will cut a line through anybody. But at the same time, early game, they're all about routing, and I don't know how solid the Men of Dale are. I don't know how likely to route they are. How many guys they have to lose before they start routing. it's just things I'm not aware of because I haven't played as Dale since like version 1. And that's kind of the thing is, you know, even for Elwirfy, who again also hasn't played, it just becomes a complication. I'm sorry, I have to go to the bathroom, so I will be back. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Had to go. But yeah, just kind of back to what I was saying. The biggest thing is just obviously, as the nature of the campaign, you kind of have to you have to think about the long term. You have to think about not just okay, who's kind of a pain to deal with right now, but who is going to be much harder to deal with the longer I let them live, you know? Like, sure, for instance, Moro early game is really annoying because there's a lot of guys to deal with. But late game, they get even worse, provided depends on which faction you are. You know, if you're the elves, early or late game, Mordor is not going to be that hard because your units are just better. You're going to be dealing with the same thing either way, is that they just get more of them. And even their top tier units will still feel like trash units compared to what you have. Where if you're playing as a faction like myself, as the Remnants of Angmar, or you're playing as a faction as like Elwirfy playing as Dale, once the trolls start getting introduced, that is where the kind of tides of battle really start to turn. You know, that is where there is a legitimate fear of just how hard things can get. Because obviously, if you have like trolls versus a lot of light armor units, like currently I'm using Rudar Savages, and the Rudar Savages have an armor of 3. Okay, then we had total defense of 6, armor of 3, defensive skill of 3. That is essentially a fucking free meal for a group of trolls. Like a squad of trolls pops in on that, that's it. They're dead. They're gone. Like they're fucked. You know, there's no way those units are gonna hold against those trolls. Granted, some of my later units don't really have that problem, like the Witch Knights, obviously. The Witch Knights being fucking 15 armor, 29 total defense, fucking 10 attack themselves. They'd be able to sit in combat with trolls for quite a while without any real, worry. Like, they would lose people, yeah, sure, but they're not going to be, oh fuck, a squad of trolls. But a vast majority of my army is that oh fuck trolls. And so that's really where it comes in, is this, at what point are you willing to, at what stage do you want to have to fight these fights, Do you want to fight the big fuck-off spammy Mordor armies when they're spammy and little and it's just shitty orcs? Or do you want to try and fight Mordor spammy armies when they also have, Uruk and the Uruk, like Mordor Uruks who have, big orc version of plate mail and, like the Temple Knights and, Dark Templars, or whatever the fuck they're called. And, like fucking the Moron Guard, or Marion Guard, or whatever. It's whatever the Black Gate. It's the guards of the Black Gate, and those guys are fucking assholes. And that kind of stuff is where the game, and specifically this this way of playing the game, this challenge that we do, gets difficult. Because for most people, And if you're just doing the campaign, but if you're playing as Dale, I don't even think Mordor's not even one of your campaign victories. You don't have to kill Mordor to win at all. Like you can ignore their existence and it doesn't change anything. Where if you were playing as Gondor, you obviously have to fight Mordor, but you also never have to worry about the orcs of the Misty Mountains or anything too far north. You never have to worry about the remnants of Angmar. But when you're doing a campaign like this, a conquer everyone campaign, a conquer Middle-earth campaign, those are things you have to think about. And those are things that can make your strategy heavily change from a typical game. Because a typical game, right, you might play all good guys. You playing as Dale, so you're friends with the dwarves and the wood elves, and you're friends with fucking just everyone. You're friends. You're just happy-go-lucky friend. And that wouldn't really affect your play much. You'd have just really strong friends that you wouldn't have to worry about. Where in a beat everyone, in a conquer all scenario, those friends are now your biggest threat. The wood elves are now a legitimate threat and something that have to be contended with. And so it's something to keep in mind. In fact, if the wood elves were weaker than they currently are, because currently they're still pretty decent. They're not actually beaten down that bad yet. In Elwirfy's campaign, if they were actually more beaten, more beat up by Dumbledore, I would actually suggest that Elwirfy wipe out the Woodland Realm while he has a chance. Remove one of his biggest competitors. Because they are legitimately one of his biggest threats. They are one of the most dangerous things for him to ever have to face on the field of battle is going to be those Woodland Realm. Their archers are going to be monstrous, and the longer he takes to deal with them, the more of them there will be. But if he decides to, fucking go curb stomp the fuck out of Theandrel's halls on turn fucking, we're on turn 30? Turn 32, goes curb stomp Theandrel's halls? Oh, there's not that big of an issue, right? Suddenly it's, I've removed one of the strongest factions in the game as a not-so-strong faction simply because they let down their guard. Now, the dwarves are a little different because, obviously, the dwarves' weakness is archery. It's ranged. So if he was going to fight the dwarves early on, he would need a lot more archers and a decently strong front line to kind of hold the dwarves in place while his archers, peg and rip them asunder. But yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made about letting Dumbledore live, or even making the alliance with Dumbledore, or attacking Dumbledore, taking the city itself, and then immediately having a diplomat negotiate a ceasefire with them, so that you are on good terms with them, but you have now taken their strongest fortress, and then hit the Woodland Realm and repeat the movement back. I forgot what I was saying. I was talking about just the longer strategy and kind of the overarching of dealing with the Total Conquest campaign, which is something that, a lot of people underestimate. Like, for instance, I'm playing as Angmar. Now, I could have immediately attacked good to bad and tried to wipe them out. I could have also immediately ran down and tried to remove Imladris or Rivendell. But for right now, what I'm really trying to do is just slowly move. I'm not trying to pick fights with just about anyone yet. I'm trying to kind of tiptoe around the edge, not really commit to any big battles. And this is partially because a lot of my enemies, or a lot of my allies, the goblins, goblins of Moria, the fucking Wildmen of Dunlin, even the Edorath, or Endorath, whatever, those guys will all be applying pressure for me. And so right now, I don't really need to be applying pressure. I just need to be trying to grab what rebel settlements I can and work around the danger of my enemy, you know? Essentially not overcommit to anything at this point. And instead try to make sure I have all the free movement I can, you know, all the ability to kind of do whatever I need to do. What are you doing?